As people are filtering in, if we're going to go ahead and get this meeting started, I'd like to call this deliberation session of the Bloomington Common Council here on September 10th to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Council Member Ferry. Here. Ruff.
Here.
Rallo. Here. Piedmont Smith.
Here.
Strasburg.
Here.
Daly. Zulik.
Here.
Rosenberger.
Here.
Asari.
Here.
Great, thank you so much. I just realized that I don't have my agenda right in front of me. So tonight, first of all, thank everybody for coming because this is a wonderful crowd in here and I'm super, super excited. So in terms of our kind of usual order of meeting stuff, the first thing on the agenda is to go over the agenda summation. And so I'm gonna do a brief introduction of what it is that we're doing here tonight and the purpose. Then we're gonna get into these breakout groups that some people are kind of already in and have some facilitated dialogue with staff and council members. We're gonna come back as a whole for some group reporting and debriefing, and then we'll adjourn right around 8:30. So in terms of my introduction, let me find it. All right, so tonight is part one of 2 deliberation sessions focused on housing needs in Bloomington. This particular session will focus on sharing your personal experiences related to finding and maintaining whatever housing you currently have and how your needs are or are not being met. The purpose of the session this evening is not to debate specific types of housing or housing policies, but to get a better understanding of what needs are and are not being met with our current housing market based on the personal experiences of those here. And it is an opportunity for both planning staff and council members to learn, as well as each of you to build understanding with community members who may not live near you or who may have very different housing needs than you do. Part 2 is planned for November 12th and will include a summary of what was heard through this and other related discussions that are ongoing through the planning department. There will likely be more specific policy proposals for discussion in November. So just a couple words about shared expectations and community agreements. First, housing can be a triggering conversation, and so please enter this space as neutrally and non-judgmentally as possible. Facilitator questions are designed to allow participants to share experiences, and all experiences are valuable. It is reality that 2 different people going through the same process will experience it differently, and both of those perspectives matter and have validity. Second, in terms of shared vocabulary, when considering your neighborhood, it is the place where you live, work, or play. Whether it's a multifamily structure, an urban block, a suburban subdivision, or some other space, that is your neighborhood, and the people living near you are your neighbors, and there are many types of neighborhoods. Last, as an organizer, and I'm hoping that this goal was met, my goal was to attract a wide diversity of participants in hopes that many voices and experiences are represented. Okay, so I'm really hopeful that we have that there tonight, and I'm really thrilled that so many people came out to share their experiences. So as we move into these groups, first of all, if you have not already added your demographic information over there on the table, there are some containers to put in puffballs to mark whether you rent or whether you own, and then also how long you have been in Bloomington, and then there is a big map over there so you can put a pin in where you live. And the purpose of that is at the end to go, how well did we diversify? Okay, do we have, a good renter to owner? Do we have people who've lived here the full spread of time in Bloomington? Do we have people from all over Bloomington or mostly in different sectors? So then as we continue this process in these discussions, we can, make deliberate outreach, and planning can make deliberate outreach into population groups that might not be represented here or through their other efforts. So that's the purpose of that. So if you haven't already done that, please do so. And lastly, we're going to have 7 small groups for facilitated conversation, and I haven't counted. I think that the groups ended up with 6 or 7 chairs each. We might need to add some chairs, okay? There's 5 groups. There's 5 groups in here, and there's 2 out in the hall, and each group will be facilitated by a city staff member and a council member as a co-facilitation team. And so for this to be a productive time of sharing, it's also important to try to diversify those intergroups as much as possible too. And of course, it's it's hard to say that, right? Because just by looking at somebody, you don't necessarily know what their housing needs are. But for example, if you came with someone with whom you share housing, consider going to different groups, okay? And also try to disperse yourself so that no group is maybe all younger or all older, just to kind of do our best in terms of making sure that within those groups we have differences, because part of this is to share different experiences so that we all can get a better grasp of understanding what the different needs are. Yeah, so that is my introduction. Oh, no, not quite. If you're an online participant this evening, there is a Google form, and so now is the moment that hopefully staff is going to share that QR code online, and also a link to that, so that any online participants can also share their experiences related to housing. There's not a conversation option available online, but through the forum, you'll have the opportunity to address the prompts and questions that in-room facilitators are going to be asking. Similarly, if you're in the room, but don't feel comfortable sharing in the small group, also feel free to use this form instead. So that even if you're in the room and you're like, I don't know if I want to share, but I want somebody to know what it is that I'm thinking, go ahead and use that form, and that's fine. At the end of the event, there will also be like a reflections form that people can fill out too in terms of this event. So there'll be another QR code. And I think that is my whole introduction. Okay, so council members, did you all get my email with what group you are? Great. So I think that this is going 1, 2, 3, is that 4 over there? 5. That's 5 over there, 4 is here, and then 6 and 7 are out in the hall. And so yeah, go to your small groups, and right about 7:55, I'll try to gavel us back into one big group again.
President Stassberg?
Okay, yes,
Can I ask you a
Councilmember
quick
Flaherty.
question related to capacity, I guess. It looks like we may have more people than chairs allowed within the groups. You mentioned getting more chairs. Just logistically, want to make sure that we create a space for everybody. So how do we ensure that before we break up?
Just bring a chair with you and just expand the circles. So that's it. And I'm not sure that anybody is sitting outside right now in the chairs that are in the hallway.
Perfect.
So that's it. Just try to, distribute that as best as possible.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are in the hall.
I'm group 6.
Gosh. Yeah, all right. Oh, this is close. Wonderful, thank you. All right, we are on to the debriefing part of this now. And so in the debriefing part of this, we need our different groups to report out. All right, yeah. Well, maybe you should have read your email, Councilmember Asari. I know, right? So many emails. So facilitators. There were 2 facilitators in each group, so hopefully one of you can volunteer right now to report out just for a couple minutes about similarities or differences that you heard in your groups, and areas of common ground or areas of difference. So who wants to go first? Go for it. Come. I'm not going to make group 1 go first. That's so cruel. Group 3 is going to go first. Jamie, thank you so much.
All right, I'm with group 3. My name's Jamie, and I co-facilitated with Hopi, and I'll do my best to summarize concisely as possible. So in terms of how housing's meeting everyone's need, most people in our group felt that the housing was meeting their needs. For some of the renters, we felt maybe like the rent is a little bit high, but also fair relative to other rents that we see around the city. It was definitely expressed that there are different preferences, especially for different phases in life. So some people expressed that the house they're in right now is currently meeting their needs, but depending on how their life changes in the future, that could change. We talked about yards a little bit, so some people had different preferences, liking a big yard that they could maintain themselves. Some people didn't like to have a yard that they'd have to maintain, so that was an interesting difference, or just people like to have the option. And then we talked about the short-term rentals and ADUs. So as far as short-term rentals, we did have a perspective of having some investors in our group. And we didn't really hear any negative experiences from people if they maybe only had like one short-term rental property in their neighborhood. So there weren't really negative experiences expressed with that. And then as far as ADUs, there wasn't a ton of firsthand experience with ADUs. It seemed like maybe they were too expensive, but it was an interesting option that people wanted to learn more about. Okay, that's what I
Thank you. Who's next? Councilmember Rosenbarger? Councilmember Zulik?
She had to know who I was. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. I was in group 6, best group ever. We had realtors, we had builders, we had homeowners, we had renters, we had Monroe County residents, Bloomington residents, so we got some good stuff. Everyone had some pretty similar ideals for what they were looking for when they approached housing. So there were some people whose needs were met because they were getting them, and some people whose needs were not met because they weren't, and that is all about housing affordability, walkability, ability to live near loved ones, ability to own a home, or a lot of what we encountered was there was a lot of people who enjoy the Bryant Park neighborhood and the different neighborhoods near campus where they can walk to work, and unfortunately, the affordable housing is not necessarily near there, especially if you're looking to buy. And so that was a lot of what we talked about in terms of what we look for in housing, and then we ran up against a couple issues in terms of ADUs and just ability to build ADUs and then sell them once they're built due to lot sizes, which is a very complicated issue that I am probably not the best person to explain to you, but we will get there someday. And essentially, we talked a lot about how we are missing the middle ground housing and that there are a lot of different people who are looking for around the $300,000 range, maybe older folks who are looking to size down or younger folks who are looking to buy their first home. A lot of them are looking for the exact same kind of type of housing, and that is what limits it as well. So a lot of it is density. And thank you. That's my presentation. I'm so glad to see so many of you here.
Thank you. Councilmember Zulik, who's next? Come on up.
Hi, I'm David Brantes. I'm a zoning planner here at the city. So we had a variety of different takes on housing issues in our group. We did have majority home owners as well as a couple of renters, but it was majority home owners. And then some of them expressed that they felt a little bit trapped. You know, maybe they wanted to get away from crime in their neighborhood, or they wanted to be in a larger house, or have more access to sidewalks, transit, more restaurants or amenities like close by. So some of that public infrastructure is what they were looking for. And then we also noted that just amongst everyone in the group, there was a strong desire to live within the city. So they did like being in the city and wanted to stay there. But when we were talking about moving around to different parts of the city, price was an issue of finding the right housing type that they wanted at that particular time. So we discussed kind of a lack of options or lack of stepping stones to the goal of home ownership, if that's your goal, or to own a different type of home. Maybe that's a single family home in a neighborhood that has more influence and is able to get those amenities that they want, and the maintenance of their infrastructure that they would desire at their neighborhood's standards. And then we talked a little bit about ADUs. People seem pretty open to the ideas of ADUs, both from the landlord side and from the renter side. And then, let's see. I think that about sums it up. I apologize if I missed something from our group that wasn't included in the summary, but it's in the notes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Who's next? Come on up, Councilmember Flaherty.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone so much for being here this evening. We were group 7 out in the hallway, and thank you to Gabriel for facilitating that group. We had 16 folks, 14 of whom were homeowners, 2 renters, also had 1 apartment and 1 condo represented among those, but otherwise all single-family homes. The majority of folks said housing was meeting their needs. A few said it was not. There were themes of both, I have too much house and I don't have enough house. So there were some right-sizing issues, folks feeling they were underhoused relative to their family's needs. Generally, appreciation and love for the neighborhoods and the surrounding amenities. Had some shout-outs and praise for traffic calming that had made neighborhoods more bikeable and walkable. Also improvements in recent years, like along the 17th Street, the multi-use path, that has really improved neighborhood cohesion, walkability to transit, et cetera. But some concerns about, and this is kind of where people's minds went on what they liked about their housing. They really kind of went to the neighborhood is where the discussion went. And concerns that the connectivity did not always extend beyond the neighborhood. So they felt kind of enclosed, that the arterials were, trapping them in because they weren't safe or comfortable to cross. Let's see. As far as amenities and what people appreciated, additionally, community centers, mixed use, the ability to be near a school or a trail or a grocery store. Some folks expressed desire for a park and didn't have that nearby, or didn't have any food amenities nearby. They felt they were in a food desert, so those were some of the areas where folks were expressing desires. Also some discussion of safety and perceptions of safety, both along trails and in neighborhoods. And so desire for a greater feeling of safety in the neighborhoods. Let's see, with respect to where folks wish they could live if the neighborhood wasn't meeting their need or wasn't their optimal, affordability was definitely a barrier to moving to a more desirable place that would be closer to the types of amenities they wanted. There was fairly widespread agreement that a mixed-use neighborhood with a diversity of housing types and nearby amenities, walkability, was highly desirable. Many nods of agreement when folks were expressing that, a desire for accessing missing middle housing, especially that would be walkable or mixed use and could be an entry point for them or the next step on the rung for housing. And general feeling that that doesn't really exist in Bloomington. So we're having a hard time even naming neighborhoods that kind of met that need. Like folks were referring to Renwick as like that has some of those things, or maybe neighborhoods close to the downtown. As far as diversity of housing types, a lot of folks in our group did live in neighborhoods that either had a diversity of housing types or had diversity like very nearby in terms of the housing types. So even if there weren't apartment buildings in their neighborhood, they were adjacent to it and they appreciated that. Not exactly a housing typology thing, but some concern about the July to July lease cycle with rental properties being a real barrier for a lot of folks. When it came to ADUs, I think as far as those questions, do you support it? About half our group, not support it, but would you consider it? About half our group would consider building one, about half our group would consider renting one. I asked a third question about the ownership requirement we have here in Bloomington and whether folks support that. It was also kind of a mixed answer. There was concerns about resale and alienability of property, also concerns about impacts in a college town with a lot of rentals of not having that requirement. Finally, just briefly on short-term rentals, again, diversity of perspectives here. Some folks thought it met some specific needs in the Bloomington community. Others concerned about it displacing valuable and limited housing for local residents. I also asked a question about regulation via inspection, whether that was something we should consider, and most folks felt no, that the rating system in Airbnb is doing that for us. So that was our group. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Evening. Our group included renters and homeowners, and the message was clear amongst us, I think that Bloomington faces lots of pressures on housing, straining families, students, neighborhoods. Affordability was at the heart of it, of the things that we discussed. Single-family homes now being out of reach for many, medium home prices far outpacing income growth, property taxes doubling since COVID, et cetera. One of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about are neighborhood concerns, how they're sort of adding to the pressures, lots of investor-owned rentals, changing to the character of blocks. We also talked a little bit, it came up, questions, sort of these overlapping questions about encampments and safety concerns, concerns around city projects, et cetera. So we had a broad, wide-ranging conversation around sort of our interests and needs in housing. We offered a wide range of solutions and ideas for the future. In terms of housing supply and diversity, people talked about starter homes, diversity of houses, condominiums, duplexes, family-friendly rentals, not just student housing, interest a little bit in density in particular places, though not interest in taller buildings. So some tension there. Policy tools, we talked about things like land trust, land banks, rental caps, limits on how many homes can be owned by investors, parking permitting questions, particularly for houses without driveways near campus. I think there was more on the side of people concerned about us building houses without parking minimums, accessible loans to new people, and even rent control, even though that's illegal. Form-based zoning was discussed to shape the look and feel of neighborhoods, loosening restrictions to allow density where it makes sense, and streamlining the planning process to projects so that the projects aren't delayed for years, sort of raising cost. We talked also about stronger cooperation between Bloomington, IU, and Ellettsville, thinking sort of of a broader ecosystem of housing. We talked about short-term rentals, and some participants called for requiring permits and collecting better data on occupancy, while others expressed concern about property rights. In some, residents agreed that Bloomington needs more housing, but not just more units, that we need affordable, diverse, well-planned options that are paired with the infrastructure and partnerships that will allow our community to grow while protecting the character of our neighborhoods. And so I'll end just by saying this last point that ChatGPT suggested, which is that a home is more than four walls. It's the foundation of opportunity, the wellspring of community, and the promise we make to everyone, to another, that everyone belongs. Thank you.
AI makes everything sound so good. I think we have two groups that still need to present.
Okay, we were group number 5, and we had a good mix of renters and owners. As far as if housing was meeting the need, most owners did say that their housing was meeting their needs, especially if there were smaller houses. If there were larger houses, they felt like maybe it was not meeting their needs, or they would like the opportunity to downsize, but they were stuck by golden handcuffs right now with low interest rates. As far as neighborhood characteristics that they liked, being walkable, having a diverse neighborhood, a mix of rentals and ownership models, really not skewed to one side or the other, a careful balance, making sure that there was access to parks and trails, being close to grocery stores was important for many. In addition, if the neighborhood met the needs, generally, owners wanted to stay where they were. Renters, for the most part, wanted to live closer to amenities. They've been forced to be further out due to the price associated that they would pay. As far as the diversity of housing, some neighborhoods had the diversity and some did not. The amenities, again, that they would like to see would be, again, being close to the grocery stores, being able to walk or bike, trails, gardens, that kind of thing. Do you have anything that you would like to add on the neighborhood side of things?
Just that I think the idea that neighborhoods were, the diversity of housing types and demographics in a neighborhood was generally just agreed on. That was a strong, that was an amenity in and of itself to have that, that diversity in a neighborhood, as opposed to, we had someone in our group who didn't have that and expressed that as a significant downside.
And some of the renters did mention that because they've been forced to live further out, they don't have the opportunity to walk to a grocery store. And we're really wanting to see potentially pharmacies or other businesses being close by. As far as ADUs, if the lot was big enough, we had about a good split where half would be interested in a potential ADU on their lot if they could fit it. Otherwise, some had no interest in renting or participating in an ADU. And as far as the short-term rental market, everyone was pretty uniform in saying that the current short-term rentals are skewing our market and are problematic.
I would just add on generally speaking, on the ADU issue in our group, there was a lot of disinterest in having anything to do with it, either living one or having one or building one. But generally, everybody was very supportive of the idea of ADUs, and no one had any, I don't remember anyone having any objections to the idea. There was a discussion about when it was mentioned that 80% of Airbnbs are no one lives in the house, they're whole house Airbnb rentals, that may be something akin to ADUs having a requirement that a resident live either in the ADU, the property owner either live in the ADU or the main structure, that maybe there was some way to have ADUs where someone was living there, so they weren't unoccupied 90% of the time. And people kind of got excited about that idea, maybe some way to do that. So it would still serve as housing year-round for at least part of the unit, part of the structure.
Mm-hmm. And I would also say that as far as meeting needs, one of the themes that I saw was that when people were happy with the housing type that they're in right now, they also were able to purchase them for $60,000 or $75,000 many years ago and adapt the house to be what they want it to be now currently. That's not an option.
And I think we'd be remiss not to mention that in our group, there was some concern expressed by both renters and homeowners about crime and safety, generally. I mean, it did come up at a couple points in our group discussion.
Last group, right? Am I right? There's just one group that has to report out.
I'm really glad we didn't have to follow ChatGPT, so thank you for that, Anna. We had a really nice mix of renters and homeowners. We had folks who live downtown, quite a few who live in walking distance of the downtown, and some from farther out. We have most people, well, we kind of had a little mini crisis of a discussion about what exactly does it mean to meet our needs, because all of us, we can eat and we have the things we need, but thinking largely, maybe it meets our needs now, but there we have future needs and future transitions and life transitions where we're not totally happy where we're at. And so we have folks who own a house because they got kicked out of their condo or got priced out of their condo, I should say, and would prefer to live in condos, but there's just not many of them. A couple people who prefer a condo. We have folks that love their single-family home and don't want to move, but it's maybe too big for them at this stage in life, and so they've had to adapt and change to make it work for them, but they still have visions of bigger changes, more units, bringing more people in. There's a lot of talk about businesses, so just more small pubs and local businesses to interrupt the solid neighborhood and residential housing, more places to gather, more third spaces. A housing policy that doesn't focus just on the core neighborhoods where all the attention and the transit is just going towards the downtown area, but is more equally spread, and other neighborhoods are taken into consideration more with certain amenities. Folks, a good landlord can make all the difference in your experience in your housing. We have a renter who would prefer to rent the rest of their life, but price is going to be an issue, and most of the all of the renters in the group, I believe their house or the cost of renting goes up every single year. So it's just a question of how long is it going to be till I have to move somewhere else. What else do you want to add?
I think you covered it.
Let's see. Oh, we love porches, more porches. And yes, I think the key, I think, in this group and maybe this town, like ChatGPT already summarized, is diversity, more options, and more creativity with housing. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you all. I just want to give us all a big round of applause right now. I thank you to the facilitators for facilitating conversations, and thank you to all of the participants who've come today to share stuff. So lastly, I want to give an opportunity for you to share more. If there are individuals out there who thought to themselves, I really want to make sure the whole group hears this point that didn't quite get in the summary. And then attached to that, there is another Google form, if staff could bring that up, that is like a reflection Google form in terms of sharing your big takeaways from discussion this evening, things that you learned, and what do you hope can come from this session. So this would be one for everybody who is in this room right now. I would love it if you would fill this out, because that would really help kind of inform kind of moving forward and in terms of like success of how this went, whether you felt like you were able to share the things that you wanted to share, and then any kind of takeaways. So while you're all doing that, is there anybody who wants to share anything verbally right now? Come on up, Anna.
Yeah, we had some shared visions that we want to make sure got on the table. Is putting together condo associations or shared living, cooperative living situations that are not rentals. So building equity collectively.
Yes. Yeah. I know Bloomington has a little bit of, I know Bloomington has a little bit of a co-housing infrastructure. Wow. I'm usually used to. I know Bloomington has a little bit of a co-housing infrastructure, but it's really more you're kind of renting a room with a lot of common space, and so you're not building that equity. I know Chicago has a little bit more of a robust infrastructure for that. It would be interesting if Bloomington were to try to explore that and see how that might work in a town this size. So. Yep.
Anybody else? Looks like Jeff would like to come forward and individually report out.
Not individually, just to supplement. Just briefly, my plea is for the city, the county, and the university to work together on some kind of plan together on housing. I think that's really incredibly negligent on part of all the different parties that we haven't found a way to do that. And I'm not putting blame on anyone, but I just feel that this is something that We don't need it tomorrow, but we need to think about where we want to be in 5 to 10 years. And I think all three entities need to get together and work collaboratively in a positive, forward-looking way. And I hope it happens in my lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have individual things that they want to make sure to stay aloud right now? Come on up.
So I came to IU with Jeff in the 70s. I believe Jeff was before me. I worked for the city throughout my college years, and I worked at the courthouse for Judge Hill in delinquency prevention kinds of capacity. So I've seen a lot of sides of development and crime and university life and growing with the city and through PCBs. And so what surprises me, given our education of those who have lived here longer, is that this crisis didn't happen overnight. And I don't understand where, when the curves and turns took a turn, how someone didn't say, wait a minute, this is going in a wrong turn. And so as we work together in the future, I'd like to have more older people as part of the mix who have been in Bloomington and saw a lot of change over the 70s, what worked and what didn't work. And then I'd like, before it just all started with what are we going to do next, because it's always let's do, I'd really like to, my major was sociology and anthropology. I'd really like to see a cultural look at how Bloomington evolved, because a little piece of me doesn't understand, no, a big piece of me doesn't understand how it happened, how we could come here in 1970, I could sublet an apartment at Grant and 4th Street for $45 a month when I was living on $1.25 an hour. And the city, I think, was paying one of the better rates. But so something's going on, because I could go to the IGA, I could buy a can of beans for 15 cents and a loaf of bread for 75, and I could live on beans and chips and bread sandwiches, which are great when you're in pinch. So I just would like to know how we got here so that we can decide where, because if we don't know where we made mistakes, we're just going to keep doing it and doing it again. So I'd really like to see more of an acknowledgement of how we got here so we don't make the same mistakes at an important juncture when it comes time to decide. And I think we need to figure out when those decision points were so we don't do them again.
Thank you. Any other come on up. We'll do maybe one more, okay? Because I don't want to keep you all here all night.
Howdy, am I coming through all right? Yeah. Gotcha. Mine's going to be a rather short comment. It's simply to express the urgency I think that there is to this and to magnify that. As somebody who I wasn't born in Bloomington, I moved here closer to 16 or 17, but I've now been living here for about 14 years, I want to say. And I've noticed amongst the folks that I went to high school with and the folks that I went to college, there has been a flight. There are a large number of folks who I went to high school with who have had to move from Bloomington, and a large number of folks who came to college here at IU and loved the place, loved Bloomington, but could not make a go of it as a place to be a home. And as I look forward and consider the future for myself, and my two little siblings are starting to age out and get to college themselves, I don't know how much longer I will be trying to stick it out here, because I've been sticking here to see them through that stage of their life, and I don't think they are either. So I think if we want to keep folks around who are, the city on like just a practical level is pouring resources into them through the high school and through, if we want to keep folks around, accessible housing, that missing middle, things like that. I can't see a way forward without that as part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to thank everybody for being here again tonight. Please fill out the reflection survey. And so if you do have something that you're like, oh, I really wish that I could have said that, put it on there. All of that survey data will ultimately be made available to the public. It is part of the public record. Those surveys do ask for names, but don't require names. And I think, but any names would be disassociated in terms of public record with like comments, just because I think that that piece of privacy matters. And then lastly, before adjournment, as I said earlier, November 12th will kind of be like part 2 of this in terms of coming back together to kind of summarize not just the things that were shared tonight, but also our director of planning has been having kind of similar meetings with different groups, trying to get similar types of feedback. And so that feedback will end up, ultimately consolidated to some degree with some policy proposal changes. And so November 12th will be a night that will have some of those summaries and potentially some of those proposal or potential change proposals. So thank you all again for being here. If you did not, by the way, when you came in, get your PIN on the map and your demographic info in there, I think that there's still time to do that, and we'll make sure that we have that count. Facilitators, if you, I need all of your notes. Okay, so if you took those notes on your electronic device, you can email those. If you did it on paper and you feel so led as to put that into an electronic device, I would love that. But if you don't have time to do that, I guess I will, or I will maybe have staff help with that. So thank you so much, and we are adjourned.